On this special edition of Freedom Journal Iraq, a look back at 2008 with the Iraqi Navy getting much needed training, and Iraqi pilots learn how to fire rockets from an MI-17 helicopter. These stories and more on today's FJI. Hello, I'm Tech Sergeant Sarah Bishop. Welcome to this special edition of Freedom Journal Iraq as we look back at highlights from 2008 and the successes of coalition forces in the country over the course of a year. We start by looking back to earlier in the year in Al-Quds, where Iraqis made history and brought online a new kinetic capability for their fleet of helicopters.
Select members of the Iraqi Air Force took flight and made their way down to Al-Quds in southern Iraq, where they would make history.
Oh, it's huge.
They did something they haven't done in a long time.
We made sure we made a big deal over it.
Something that changed their mission capabilities.
Because it was a big deal.
Something that changed the way the Iraqi Air Force fights its battles.
In simple terms, we've given the Iraqi Air Force the capability to go out and fire rockets.
It all started here, on the flight line, where Iraqis under the direction of coalition forces learned how to load rockets into their rocket pods.
Not training rockets, these were actual live rockets.
With that said, coalition forces focused on teaching the young warrant officers the correct and safe way to handle the weapons. Once that part of the training was finished and the pilots received some pointers, it's time to go.
I'm ready to fly now.
The flight crews make their final checks and it's to the range to get hands-on practice firing the rockets. In all, the Iraqis put nearly 30 rockets downrange, allowing 2 different pilots to get hands-on experience firing weapons from their MI-17 helicopters. But why is all of this so important? Why did the Iraqis and the coalition work so hard on this mission?
That's very important, giving the Iraqi Air Force the capability to go out and actually engage enemy targets, showing a presence of force that they actually have a credible Air Force, not only to the public, but as well as the enemies they're fighting.
Showing the public and their enemy a capability the Iraqi Air Force hasn't had since Operations Desert Storm and Desert Shield in the early 1990s.
The port at Qasr plays a huge role in the economy of Iraq, as it's the only deep-sea port in the country, and more than 90% of Iraq's gross domestic product passes through the coastal province of Basra. In order to protect their country's assets, the Iraqi Navy received specialized training earlier this year from the British Royal Navy. Air Force Sergeant Jared Fry went to Qasr to show us the importance of the Navy's mission in this vital economic piece of real estate.
This oil platform may not look like much, but without it, the Iraqi economy would suffer a huge blow. That makes the security of this area of the highest importance.
There are 2 terminals here, the Khor Al Ameya oil terminal, or KOT as it's colloquially known, and the Al Basra oil terminal, or ABOT as it's colloquially known. Both of them contribute to that oil export and absolutely vital to Iraqi economy, generating over 90% of the country's gross domestic product. So the lifeblood, the lifeline of Iraq lies in these 2 oil terminals, and that's why this mission is of strategic importance.
In order to maintain the security of these terminals, the British Royal Navy has been working close with the Iraqi Navy and Marines
Come on board.
to ensure they can protect these valuable assets by providing the necessary training.
And we're training the Iraqi Navy and the Iraqi Marines for their future, to take on security of their own waters, territorial waters, and protection of their oil platforms offshore. To date, so far, they've taken over security of the KAA waterway, the Khor Abdallah waterway. We did that in November last year from 5th Fleet in that sent. And in April this year, we gave them security, point defence of the KOT oil platform, and also boardings at sea. They do it by themselves now.
Before the Iraqi sailors can take control of the defense of the oil platforms, they have a final live training test with the British sailors to ensure they can maintain proper security.
They recognise, the future's in their hands. They're happy to take on the additional responsibility, and yeah, well, they're making a very pleasing progress, and we're working very closely with them.
Securing the lifeline of Iraq, it's one more step for these Iraqi sailors and Marines toward economic security of their country. Air Force Sergeant Jared Fry, Qasr, Iraq.
With all the kinetic operations and training throughout the country, casualties are a fact of life. But some of the people who have been injured in combat are still making a contribution. Earlier this year, Seaman Aaron Hebner chronicled one Marine in Fallujah who shared his heroic tale with the masses.
It's another morning for Gunnery Sergeant Spanky Gibson, and the camera crew is already here to meet him. Gunny Gibson has had his share of media come out to chat with him, and at a quick glance, Gunny Gibson seems to be your typical Marine. But it's his story that sets him apart, and that's why this NBC News team has made the journey to Fallujah to capture his motivating tale. Back in 2006, Gunny Gibson was in Ramadi on a mission.
My 4 guys and 4 NSW operators were skirting their movement, basically doing overwatch. As they started falling back into a courtyard, I looked back, looked forward, told my guys to prepare to move to the courtyard, look back, look forward. Right as I looked forward and pulled my weapon up, the round struck me right through the left kneecap, and it just dropped me right in the middle of the street. And the next thing I know, one of the NSW operators, one of my Marines, started dragging me. They flipped me end over end. And at that point, I just kept firing my weapon.
And as a result of his injuries that day, surgeons were forced to amputate Gibson's left leg almost completely. But the Gunny has not let his life-changing injury stop him from doing what he loves most, being a Marine.
This is my life. I've been a Marine longer than I haven't been a Marine. If you think of my life, almost 19 years of it have been as a Marine. I'm only 36 years old. I came in the Marine Corps at 17, turned 18 in recruit training.
The news team wants to get a feel for Gunny Gibson's routine, so he takes them to the gym while he works out, and after that they follow him to the chow hall, drawing all kinds of attention wherever they go. But Gunny Gibson has not let the spotlight blind his vision.
This is just a method to reach more people, to allow them to hear all the successful things that service members doing after injuries.
The correspondent for NBC, Ned Colt, says talking with Gunny Gibson and getting to share this kind of story is a nice change of pace.
To be able to meet with someone who's inspirational, who picks up your mood, who just has a wonderful attitude about life is a nice change from what we typically get to do.
Through all the walk and talk interviews, the sit-downs, and the audio checks, Gibson's message didn't change much. It isn't about him.
This is truly about the Marine Corps. This is showing Marines that the Marine Corps will look out for you, and they'll give you an opportunity if you ask for it, if you accept the responsibility of it.
The Gunny asked for it, and now he's here, serving with the Corps. Reporting from Fallujah, I'm Seaman Aaron Hebner.
American forces aren't the only ones who have suffered the effects of war on terror. Thousands of Iraqis have lost limbs due to IEDs and other explosive attacks. In May of this year, Petty Officer Patrick Dilley took a look at a former U.S. military reservist taking strides to help Iraqi citizens regain their mobility.
These Iraqi patients await special care in this clinic near the Combat Support Hospital in Baghdad. They're victims of amputation and, until recently, probably would never have walked on their own again. Chris Cummings, a former Army Reserve Staff Sergeant, is working to change that. He's training a team of Iraqi Army medics to make prosthetic legs.
They've had experience in the field. They've had formal prosthetic training here in Baghdad. So it's more showing some new tools to them, new techniques and new components.
Proper techniques and sophisticated equipment make it possible, which Cummings knows all about. He opened a production facility after serving on active duty during the Gulf War. He enlisted in the Army Reserve in 2001 and returned to Iraq in 2004.
While I was here, I tried to think of what can I do, as a civil affairs guy and as a prosthetist to help people in Iraq.
So he put together a makeshift clinic in his spare time with the help of a colleague.
We started working out of a kitchen in one of the palaces, and with donated materials, and it snowballed, and we got funding, and we built this really well-equipped clinic now. It's probably the best equipped clinic in the Middle East.
The Multinational Security Transition Command Iraq coordinated with the Iraqi Army Surgeon General's office to outfit the clinic and bring Cummings on board.
You're taking care of people, you're raising the level of care that they're receiving or they would have received, or in some cases some people wouldn't get it prosthesis.
In this man's case, he is unable to drive his taxi anymore, and his wife is struggling to support him and their daughter. His legs were severed in an explosion.
Bilateral above knee, most people will spend the rest of their lives in a wheelchair.
But after this consultation, he'll have a chance to walk and work again. Petty Officer Patrick Dilley, Baghdad.
That wraps up this special edition of our program from all of us here at AFN and Freedom Journal Iraq. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.